After several years of marking, I think the following six uh, problems are what undermined the quality of the essay, the quality of the analysis, the quality of the ping pong structure of the essay. The first one, and probably most important problem, most frequent problem, is that you make a generalization and then you don't support it with examples or explanation. Examples should be real, not made up or what you think something should be. Examples should be personal, preferably. They can be drawn from your CAS experience, from something you researched in your extended essay, from one of your IB subjects, from your personal culture or religion or sporting team or a CAS activity you've undertaken, and you draw an example from that that supports a general claim in your argument, which supports the knowledge question. And that makes it a personal essay. That says to me as a marker, that says this person really understands what they're talking about. They haven't just taken it from a book somewhere. It assures me that they have thought about it and applied it to their own life, which is more important than somebody else having it about their life. But you can also include some research examples that you find suitable in support of your argument. Another problem people have, another big problem, is they're far too general, they're vague in what they say, or it needs developing. So maybe they don't explain their claim, maybe they don't give evidence. This is closely linked to the what I just talked about. Maybe they don't give evidence. Um, Maybe they don't offer a counterclaim. So they just throw something out there and move on to the next thing, which very often is a generalization. So, for example, historians are biased. Well, that is sometimes true in some cases, but not always true. So you can't sort of just throw out a generalization. It needs explanation. Some historians are biased in some circumstances, or in certain ages or times or cultures. Maybe they're more biased than others. It needs explaining, and then give a couple of examples, and that'll make it a worthy claim, a convincing claim. Um, and alongside of that is very often those essays that have that mistake. They'll go from a general claim, historians are biased, all historians are biased, and then they'll follow that up and they'll say that's a given to them, according to the essay, and then they'll say all our historians are biased, um, and they're unaware of being so, and then the person writes, which suggests that we cannot eliminate bias from the quest for knowledge in history. Well, the first statement is wrong or questionable. It's contestable. Uh, Historians are biased. Whoa, hang on, I got some problems with that. I'm an old history teacher, so they're biased, but that doesn't mean that that the quest for truth in history, you can't find it. Um, you've used a faulty assumption to draw a conclusion. And I'll mark that on the essay, a misleading assumption that throws the whole next statement off. So that generalization idea very often is linked to misleading understanding. Sometimes examples have a tendency to become a bit long-winded and become difficult and become descriptive. And you'd rather keep it short for word lengths. Another problem is that sometimes the essays tend to become descriptive. This is an easy trap to fall into, especially in the examples. Um, when someone will research an example and they'll give a long, detailed description of what the background to um, this example, and they'll give 200 words describing, for example, all about Marie Curie's research and what she did and how she used the scientific method, and and you get 200 words, 150 words of description, when actually all you needed to do was something along Marie's research work on radium led to her early death or something like that. If you use a quote in support of as evidence, you need to unpack that quote, interpret it. What's it mean? How's it relevant to this paragraph? What's it support? What am I talking about? And why it should be believed and followed, and maybe it could be something that's linked to one of your examples. And the other thing that I think, this isn't a mistake, but it's just a big chance, and I mentioned this earlier, it's a big chance to impress the marker when you use drawn experiences from your own background. Um, your own, and I mentioned this earlier about examples. Another problem is the uh, candidate isn't specific or explicit enough. Um, so, and I'll say that, be specific, or I'll say, like what? How so? So, for example, a person, um, this was one I ran into this year. Something about by examining my own thoughts, I was shifted. I I've shifted my thinking due to these influences. What what thoughts did you examine? Just give me one. Um, what was the shift? What were the influences? And I'll just say which ones. Um, you know, how so? Explain. What do you mean? Instead of just throwing out, oh, examining my own thoughts. Which thought and which new, how did that change you? In what way? Okay. And the last one I'll talk about, and this isn't really a problem, but it makes um, your essay more fluent, more readable, more impressive, more logical, and it helps the marker follow what's going on. And I use the word signposting with my students. Um, and if I'm marking and I comment on the paper, I'll say, signpost the reader by linking your statement to the knowledge question, or signpost the example by linking your example to the knowledge question. So you're telling the marker what you've just told them. And so, for example, at the beginning of the paragraph, here's my claim, here's explained, and this shows that something about the knowledge question. Or if not at the beginning, then at the end, that this claim and example um, is demonstrates something specific about the knowledge question. All right, so you're giving little clues to the reader, and it makes it much easier for them to follow. Okay, and it certain gives it links paragraphs together. It links it all um, together. This example explains how an explanation can be good. This was a couple years ago. This example explains how an exclamation can be good, but not true. So you don't leave it to the marker to guess, tell them. All right, and we call that signposting. Good practice, good essay structure everywhere. Tell the reader what you're going to tell them. Tell them the story, and then tell them what you told them. Okay, simple essay style. Okay.